Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business News Afternoon Report for Monday the 11th of March 2024. I'm Sean Aylmer. Every afternoon we've got the 5 stories that happened today that you need to know about. Story number 1, there was a big fall on the share market today with the benchmark S&P ASX 200 closing down nearly 2% to 7,704 points. The materials, financials and energy sectors fell hardest, but was the case of all sectors being sold off, with 80% of the top 200 ending lower. Only 3 of the top 50 stocks, Coles, Auckland Airport and Xero, ended higher today. In the case of the big miners, commodity prices drove down their performance, with a falling iron ore price sending BHP, Fortescue Metals Group and Rio Tinto all down by around 3%. In the case of the banks and some other sectors, profit takers stepped in. Today, Commonwealth Bank closed down 2.7%, NAB was off 2.9%, Westpac dropped 3.2%, and ANZ closed just over 2% lower. In corporate news, engineering group Worley won a contract for professional services with Shell. Worley will provide design, procurement and construction management support at one of Shell's Holland hydrogen facilities. And Regional Express shares rallied 5% after it announced a code-sharing partnership with Etihad Airways. Story number 2, Federal Treasurer Jim Chalmers has opened the way to fast-track approvals for major projects in a move that could help the government win over coalition support for a tougher petroleum resource rent tax. Dr. Chalmers, speaking at an Australian Financial Review summit today, also said the balance of risks was shifting from inflation to growth. He said the government won't ignore the inflation threat, but it also can't ignore the way the economy is slowing. He used the summit to announce a number of new initiatives, including the abolition of about 500 nuisance tariffs. They're tariffs that do little for revenue, but certainly cost business. And Chalmers wants to streamline the system of environmental approvals and make them clearer, including in sectors such as oil and gas. The Treasurer said the changes will clarify what the national environmental standards are and make it faster and easier to assess whether a project meets them. There'll also be changes to the regulatory regime for banks, particularly the smaller operators. The government wants to secure opposition support for its legislation to toughen the petroleum resource rent tax, which is aimed at raising an extra $2.4 billion over the next 4 years. Story number 3, the size of the Australian exchange-traded fund industry hit a new record last month for assets under management, at least, jumping more than 3% to just under $190 billion. BDS Shares says international equities remain popular with ETF investors, continuing a trend of the past 4 months. More than $1 billion of net inflows last month, or 2/3 of the month's total flows, were in international equities. The second biggest category was fixed income. It received about $300 million in net flows. The best performing ETFs overwhelmingly are crypto-focused products. Ethereum, Bitcoin and crypto-oriented equities all rose strongly post the approval of US-listed Bitcoin ETFs. Story number 4, Americans are increasingly happy about the economy, but reluctant to give President Joe Biden any of the credit. Almost half of US voters said they are now living comfortably or able to meet expenses with a little left over, according to the latest FT Michigan Ross poll. The 48% figure recorded in March compared with just 43% in November last year. Now, 30% of respondents described overall economic conditions in the US as excellent or good, up from 21% late last year. By contrast, Biden's approval rating on his handling of the economy in March remained flat from November at just 36%, while 59% disapproved. US growth last year was the strongest of any large advanced economy, while inflation fell faster. Unemployment remains near record lows, and the economy added another 275,000 jobs last month, beating Wall Street forecasts. Throw in a record S&P 500. It's been a pretty good run for the world's largest economy. And story number 5, we can't end the day without congratulating Oppenheimer, the big winner at the Oscars, held this morning Australian time. It won 7 awards from 13 nominations, including Best Motion Picture, Best Director for Christopher Nolan, and Best Actor for Cillian Murphy. The Best Actress award went to Emma Stone in Poor Things. That's it for the afternoon report for Monday, the 11th of March, 2024. Don't forget to hit follow on the podcast and find Fear and Greed on LinkedIn, Instagram, X, and Facebook. Join Michael Thompson and I tomorrow morning for the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed. The top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your evening.